even though I didn't have the pleasure to work with this gentleman when I started my extension career 32 years ago, even though there were some people in between him and me here in Columbia County, I still came in having some big shoes to fill because everybody was talking about Don Rogers and what Don Rogers did. And Don and I do have a long time connection as well because we both grew up in Cooperstown, New York. We went to Cooperstown Central School, and our mothers were teachers together in the school district as well. But Don started his career as a county agent here in Columbia County, then went to Dutchess County, and then saw the greener pastures and came back to Columbia County, and then decided that there were some other opportunities and left and went to work for Farm Credit and was a consultant for Farm Credit for many, many years. As the commissioner says, you will please get out your pad and pencils because we're about ready to get instructed in a very entertaining and energetic way. So please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Don Rogers.
Good morning. Mother Nature was pretty good to us today, wasn't she? Wow. She's been grumpy all winter. But it's nice to have a good day and have a good group to discuss the future of agriculture, a topic that's dear to my heart. I'm glad to be back to Columbia County. Just before the meeting, I had one of my favorite farmers come and talk to me, and it brought back a lot of thoughts about how I got started in a career of helping farm families. You know, when you get out of Cornell and you take your first job, you don't know what to expect. But the farming community in Columbia County treated me tremendously, and in return, I was very grateful because this is what I did for the rest of my career. And it's a little scary because it was 49 years ago that I started in Columbia County. And it really ironic was that I learned how to track alfalfa weevil with a net right here on this site. Back in the old days, you know, county agent was to try to get rid of the alfalfa weevil. And so the Campbell brothers would call me and I'd go out and sweep and say you'd have to spray. I love this flat. I did soil samples on it and everything. Now instead of growing alfalfa and corn, it grows kids. I think that's great, compatibility, that's great, better than houses. So, I appreciate the Columbia County agriculture community to get me off to a good start. Well, I want to make sure I get this, popped it up there already. Okay, when I speak, I can't sit still. I wanted to wander all over the place, that's my style. But I don't have a portable mic, I can't get too far from this, so, you know, I may have some problems adapting to this new technology. This is my poster family. Some of you know them. The Chris Brothers Orchard in Walden, New York. I picked this as the illustration of the topic, who will farm my farm? And it's already been brought up by your welcome speakers, the importance of continuing the farm tradition with the new generation of farmers. This farm has done its homework. The young lady on your left is Jennifer Chris, and she got her smile from her parents, which is obvious. And she did all the right things when you think about management succession. She is the 5th generation, and with her younger brothers, they're looking forward to them learning and understanding the big business that they have. I know Jenny when she was at Enfield because she went through college, spent 3 or 4 years with us as a loan officer. She did her homework. She's back on the farm. She's excited about it. We talked about it a little bit recently because I wanted to use them as my illustration. She's got her assignment, she's got her apprenticeship program, and this is very exciting. Jennifer and I had a lot of talk in the Enfield office, and God bless her, she listened, and she took notes, and she's off and running. And I'd like to share with you some of the thoughts about keeping the farm in the family, or trying to find those new farmers and get them to operate your business. The exciting thing that I found when I came to the Hudson Valley was it was a very diversified agriculture area. It's warm climate. I'm from upstate New York, and all it does is snow and it's cold and it's a short season. The Hudson Valley is different, and therefore you can grow a lot of different crops. It has great soils, and it's on a southern slope, so our fruit trees like it, and it's nearest to market. And all those make great combinations for farming, and I expect that farming will be here for a long time in the Hudson Valley, and that's a good thing. Now, being an old timer, I decided to go back and look at the 1964 census when I started out, especially Columbia and Dutchess counties. Well, that's a long time ago, so I brought it up to date in 2007 because the 2012 census is almost out. They've announced the state numbers, but not the county numbers. So in 2007, I found that there were full-time and part-time farms, 1,200 of them. That's enough to make a good agriculture industry. That's a lot of farms. And what I discovered last night, reading the new census, really encouraged me. Now, the total farming population in the country dropped 4%. That's not much. They got 4% bigger, but a few areas increased their farm numbers. New England was one of them. Vermont, Connecticut, Massachusetts, those farms increased both in numbers and size. The Great Plains increased and Florida increased, and New England. Now, who's next to New England? The Hudson Valley. And I think when we see those numbers, we'll see that the farms have held their own or increased. And I think that's exciting, because you need a nucleus of agriculture to make a strong economy. And to have organizations like helping in this conference keep it going, it's exciting. So there is a great future for the Hudson Valley in agriculture, especially with the new agriculture. I don't know why I call it new agriculture. It's just adjusting the times. But we in Farm Credit have embraced the new agriculture. Last 10, 15 years, a lot of things have changed. I got involved in working with families in the green industry. You talk about an agriculture industry that has just grown by leaps and bounds. It's the greenhouses, the nurseries, the garden centers, the landscape designers. That's a whole interesting industry that has blossomed in the Northeast. We've got the value-added industry that's come, we call it the new agriculture. I get excited about community support agriculture, CSAs. They're new in the last 10 years, but when you think about it, the idea is it's just so simple and so strong. You ask your customers to put money up first so you can grow the crop, you help them to help you harvest the crop, and then you can come every week and get fresh vegetables. Beautiful concept, you know, and that's catching on, and then it's exciting. We have a lot of other new agriculture. You've got the value-added services that farmers are doing now. And I have to tell you a little bit about that. When we look at the next generation and the needs that they have and the skills to match the new agriculture, the first thing they've got to do is study under a craftsman. You know, the old folks, they never made wine or cheese, and they're farming traditionally. So where's the young generation going to learn new agriculture? They're going to learn from craftsmen. The little old cheesemaker, I don't know where, but they'll find them. They are. The winemaker. And, you know, this whole thing about home brewed beer. In fact, that's going to hatch a whole new growing industry called hops. It's already come. So now, it's kind of ironic. I grew up in Cooperstown, New York, which was all hop country. Back in the 30s and 40s, the whole valley grew hops. And they all went and they harvested them in a group. And our buildings were built for hops. Although I never saw, except for a few hop vines that were left around. And now they found out how to grow them back again, and we're back in the hop business. That's new agriculture. I just read that there is a new retail market. I think I can pronounce this right. A cidery? A cidery. Well, that's someone who makes hard cider out of apples. Great thing. And I think it just, the first one in New York State got certified under the new legislation. Well, I'll tell you something that you'll find very interesting. I was in Maine a year ago, and I happened to visit a Maine potato farmer. And he found a way to take his cull potatoes and learn how to do what? Make vodka. That's new agriculture from an old traditional potato industry. He not only did that, but he bought up an old gas station on a main road in the tourist area of Maine. And he put the distillery in the garage section. And he made it into a retail store. He sells 4 kinds of vodka and can't keep up with it. That's the new agriculture. You have to learn that trade. You have to be a craftsman. There is a farm school in New Hampshire that teaches you how to grow vegetables. And that's a new way of doing things. Now, I missed the technology stage. Thank heavens I missed it. You know, I got a cell phone for emergencies. My son tried to text me. I didn't know what text means. So, you know, the new generation's got to learn all about technology. I was at a retail market with a young couple about 10 years ago. And their goal was to increase that business to $1 million a year. Unbelievable goal. And the young wife looked at me and she says, "Don, should we have a website?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that can't lose." I knew little about a website. I said, "Go ahead, try it." She did. The first day she got 100 hits. The first day. You know what they wanted? They want to buy their products. So all of a sudden she went into the internet selling business. They made their $1 million, 40% of it is now from internet sales. That's new technology, that's new agriculture. And when you look and think about it, there's another thing called enterprise accounting. If you're going to get into new, risky, exciting things, you better know if you're making money. And today we've got an enterprise account. We can do it, we can keep track of the numbers, we can study it, but we got to know the gross margin, not only on your farm, but your departments, your enterprises, but your products. Do annuals make you money? What type of annuals make you money? What is our net margin from that? How do we adjust? How do we price? It's almost a new ballgame. And you have to get your numbers and get your information together. Back in the old days, I took the Green Cornell cash account book out. And the farmers hated it. But they had to keep track of their business, at least for tax purposes. Now today, you track your business for profitability purposes. This is the next generation and the skills that has to go with it. Now, if you're a family farm, the problem you got today in the transfer business is that you got to teach these skills. And I hate to tell you, us old timers are not good teachers of this stuff. You know? And so the young folks have got to learn many different ways. Okay, transfer challenges. We've got the new agriculture, we've got new skills to learn, we've got the traditional farmers having to change. There are enough challenges, but there are still more challenges. But transfers go on and on and on. There are so many different ways to pass the farm from one generation to the next. It might give you a headache, but there are ways. And it is going on all the time. Let's just talk about a few issues that I need to draw your attention to because they cause us some grief and some apprehension. The first one is that farmland is much more expensive. I remember years ago, a 50-cow dairy farmer sold his farm to his son for $60,000, lock, stock, and barrel. $60,000. Today, that's more like $600,000 or $6 million. Blows your mind the amount of assets that we have to get from one generation to the next. And it blows your mind. Well, we have some techniques. You talk about it. You're going to talk about it now. One of the techniques is we do have more APR land. Some of you may know about the APR program. It's very, very established in New England. It's in New York. Your local communities, your state, your federal government are all working together to buy the development rights from your farm. No more housing developments. Emphasize agriculture on the good land. Great concept. I'll tell you how it works in transfer. I was fortunate enough to work with one of the very first farms in the state of Connecticut that sold the development rights. And the situation was right. Granddad was in the 70s in poor health. He needed care. Farm couldn't afford to pay it. They needed to get the farm transferred to his son. And it's a beautiful location, high valued land. They sold it back then for $800,000 to the state. That left the APR, or the agriculture value left. It was very easy to transfer that to the son by gift and sale. It made it easier for the son to farm. And likewise, he has brought his two children, a daughter and a son, into the business. And that was a beautiful transfer process. But they also had to do something else. They had to change the way they operated their business. Granddad did it one way. His son and the sons were doing it differently. And today, that brother and sister run a retail entertainment agriculture. They have festivals. They have pick your own crops. They have, you name it. Very, very well transferred into the fourth generation. I'm very proud to be part of that process, and I'm very excited for it. So this is a way of doing it. And we have another very interesting way. I went up to Vermont once to help a foundation out who had bought several farm operations in the valley. In fact, they own most of the farmland. And their goal as a foundation was keep it in agriculture. So they rented their farms out, and my job was to help the young renters get going. It was an interesting concept. That was probably 15 years ago. And we got something going now that blows my mind. We've got local communities buying excellent farmland that's interwoven in their community that they want for open space, keep the development slowed down, and to grow healthy crops, vegetables for the community. They've just established one in near Simsbury, Connecticut, and they're renting it out to a young couple who are going to open up a CSA, and so the community protects the land, gets the right new agriculture in there, and everybody is pitching in for it. So there are ways to work around this. It's difficult. The land is worth a lot today, especially in the Hudson Valley. We need it for agriculture, and so we got to work hard on it. Now the second challenge is not only that we grow and produce and change, not only requiring a new learning curve, but there's so much else to know in farming. Whether it's good or bad, it's there, and it takes a lot of time and effort. First of all, you know that in the old days, most of the farms in Hudson Valley sold their produce wholesale. When I started out, the apple growers put them in cold storage, sold them to buyers wholesale. The dairy farmers sold their milk to handlers wholesale. Vegetable growers took them up to the regional market or to the city, sold them wholesale. Well, wholesale farms today, to do that, they got to be much bigger because the profits are shrinking. The average farm, when I started out in Columbia County, the dairy farms were about 30, 40 cows. Today, those wholesale farms that are left, minimum's 100 to 200 cows. And we got many farms in the Northeast now, 200, 500,000 cow dairies. They're forced because of the wholesale nature of their business. And so that is very complicated arrangement when you're trying to transfer to the next generation or get somebody to run that type of farm when you're done with it. Always regulations, always tax laws. You sell something, you got capital gains. If you die, you got state taxes, you got gift taxes, you got transfer of real estate taxes, you got alternative minimum tax. Oh my God, I'm tired already of talking about it. So you need professional help when you do the transfers because you got to contend with it. That's just law of the land. It's there. The environmental issues, they're there. CAFO, wetlands, and a whole new one, labor law. If our leading politicians could figure out the Immigration Act, I hope they consider agriculture as the #1 priority. There's something about this great American lifestyle, they don't like to work on farms. It's too hard work. And so how do you get things done on a farm? You get that exciting group of immigrants who don't mind. You take that away from them, you forget all the other programs you got in agriculture. So keep working on it, you legislators. You can't let that go away. So farming with the next generation is a big job. Okay, let's go back to a few basics. I have 2 handouts. One is about the farm family business cycle. Let me acquaint you with this. It's pretty much common sense. Every family business has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And a lot of them want to start all over again for the next generation. Beginning, middle, and end. Well, on the get a graph like this. And on the left side, the vertical side, is a measure of the business success in profit. So the present generation, they started out a while back. They're doing pretty good. They're making money. They're improving their business. They're growing it. And they get up to a point where, oh, heck, I want to enjoy it a little bit, slow down a little bit. Or they get even more excited and want to grow the business even more. Guess what? 20 years later, comes the next generation. Either it's a family member or an outsider or somebody else. They got dreams too. And it's a 20 years generation gap. And they start out dreaming about their empire. And they try to acquire some assets. They want to catch up with the present generation. Well, when the present generation's in their 50s or 60s, next generation's gone into the 30s and 40s, that's an interesting triangle. Hopefully they're compatible. If they're not, that's a dangerous area to be in. I had one farmer in the audience come up to me afterwards. He says, Don, whoop, I hit the wrong button. He says, Don, he says, I'm 75 years old and I'm just beginning. And I says, all the more power to you, but you still got the same curve. He says, well, I don't know. My son is 52, and I think he's missed his calling. Well, I said, what about your grandson? Oh, there's hope there. There's hope there. So this is a general curve. Let me tell you a little bit about the stages. You dream about building an empire, you build your empire, you enjoy it, and you leave it. There's 4 stages. And you need to think about your succession plan as you go through the 4 stages. Transferring a business just doesn't happen when you walk into a professional office and say, oh, by the way, I need to transfer my business in the next 28 hours because I might die. No. The Chris family worked on it for 5 generations. They spent as much time worrying and working hard to transfer their business as they did growing apples. So a message I want to get to you, don't postpone it or procrastinate. You got to get working on it. And those young people who want to start out farming, you got to find this farm and where they're at and try to work into that business. Okay. Dreaming of Empire. We're in a school. You have FAA programs, you got 4-H programs. That's where it starts. You start by dreaming of an empire. You start by kids growing plants in the greenhouse. 4-Hers who have their first calf and show it at the fair. If they get caught up in the excitement of farming, we got them. They're the heir apparent. Wherever they end up, they're going to choose agriculture as a career. We got to keep those programs going. We got to get teenagers to dream about their empire. And that means that they have to require some discipline to build their future. I know some young teenagers who have got some farm assets. Yeah, maybe a snowmobile too, but that's okay. That's better than a fancy car. They got to acquire assets, they got to go to college, they got to find out what they want to learn. And that's part of the dreaming stage. I had a farm that had 3 brothers, 6 children between them. They had me come out to the kitchen table, no, the dining room table. There were 13 people in that room. And the whole purpose was to tell the next generation what the opportunities are in their business and what they need to do to get ready to come into the business. And this I very seldom do, but oh, what an opportunity. And they laid it out. If you kids want to farm with us, and we're a very successful farm, we'd love to have you. Number one, you've got to work and help build your interest in farming. You've got to go to an ag college. You've got to go for 4 years. And you got to work off the farm for 3. And then we'll have you come in as an apprentice. And then we'll give you part of the business for doing all this. And if we have to, we'll design a bigger and better business. Now, out of those 6 children, 4 are back, 1 part-time, 2 still in college. I tell you, those brothers are trying to grow that business so fast, it's funny. But that's great, that's great. It takes time when you've got to be thinking about dreaming. So, some of you out there are building your empire. You're involved in your business. You get wrapped up in it 24/7. Hopefully you don't forget the kids, the spouse, and the family. Those who are ready to build their empire, they get very serious. They probably get married. They want to be in charge. They want to make a difference. They're in their 30s and 40s. They're either a junior partner, hopefully by now, or on their own. And along comes the next generation, just dreaming up a storm. You can't forget about them. You can't forget about them. Very critical stage. A lot of folks that I talk to are enjoying their business so much they're forgetting that it's going to come to an end soon, and they got to pick a successor. If you are in charge and haven't built your business, and you might want to enjoy things, or still love the excitement of building a bigger empire, that's good. But remember, the next generations back in stage 3, they're serious and they want to be involved in something important. I'll tell you a sad story. I got asked to go up to visit a farmer who got hurt. He's in his late 60s. He's in a wheelchair. His son is doing all the daily work on the farm, trying to manage everything. His father is really discouraged, doesn't know what to do, so he says, I want to transfer the farm to my son. So I got there, we sat in the kitchen table. There was only one problem. The son wasn't there. I said, was he coming in? No, he's an assistant fire chief, and they got a call. The fire station whistle just set, and he had to take off. I said, oh, okay, well, I'll come back. I'll come back. So we talked a little bit. I left. Went down the street in the car and went past the fire station. Man, there was no activity. The doors were not open, and truck engines weren't anywhere. It was quiet, except there was 4 cars in the back. I stopped, turned around, went into the back room, and guess what? There were 4 men playing cards. Guess again, which one of them was the farmer's son? So I asked him to step out for a few minutes. I said, what's going on here? I hate the farm. I don't want anything to do with it. Well, I think you better tell your old man. No, I'll break his heart. Oh, now wait a minute. Something's got to give here. Well, he controlled everything for so long, I'm sick of it. Missed opportunity. Missed opportunity. They sold the farm. You got to work hard at this transfer process. It's not an easy one. Okay, you got to leave the empire. Yes, you got it. Something has to give. Probably the most difficult thing is give up control. Give up control. Oh, I got lots of stories about that. Another colleague that speaks on this subject across the country is Professor Ron Hansen from University of Nebraska. And he and I at different conferences would sit and talk for hours about all our experiences about the old folks not giving up control. I have a farm right now that Farm Credit's working with. Granddad is 86 years old and he has a checkbook. And when you have the checkbook, you got control. He writes out checks to his son and to his grandson. They work. You get a paycheck just like every other employee. They don't own anything. And grandfather is one of these that says, when I die, you can get the farm. Well, that's not much of an incentive. And maybe it won't happen because they haven't planned it. And it's sad. The grandson's mad. So he got up and he's dreaming of an empire and he's farming down the road. God bless him. All right? Because granddad at 86 does not want to give up control. Probably one of the hardest things to do in a management succession is to give up control. Now the opposite story was, I worked with a farmer who was 49 years old. He had a son that was 21. He already had 2 kids, loved the farm. Only one problem. Father and son couldn't get along anyway, anyhow. But there was a beautiful farm, son wanted a farm. Guess what Dad did? He left the empire. At 49, he got a job selling ag equipment. Great, loved it. Son went on to run the farm, ended up with 6 kids. He's got the same problem. But I don't know whether he'll leave or his kids will leave. But just to illustrate the story, that this is more than just, on paper transfer. It's got to be real. It's got to be real. Too many farmers can't do this, and the next generation leaves or becomes discouraged. Well, key strategies for both generations. This is in my handout. I'll go over it fairly quickly. When you're building your empire, find time to include the family. Make farming fun for the kids too. I have a paper that I left with you. It says, which comes first, the family or the farm? And a lot of workshops and conferences, I love to do this. So I polled the audience. I said, okay, what's more important, the farm or the family? Those who think the farm is, raise your hand. And all the men raise their hand. Well, what would you expect? That's their love, that's their dream. I said, who thinks of the family? All the wives raise their hand. I said, oh boy, I hope you all get along. I said, you're both wrong. It takes both to make it. And if you don't foster the family will destroy the farm. In my career, the saddest thing I had to do was orchestrate farm divorces. They're not immune and they're ugly. And I never liked them. That's because you can't choose the farm or the family. You got to do them both together. Family businesses don't have a good track record. Only about 10% of them make it into the third generation. Those of you who are going to start farming or just started, hopefully I get to you. You got to work hard on this. Those who are older and thinking about transfer, lighten up a little. Okay. When enjoying your empire, push the next generation, take on key responsibilities. Establish a business entity to bring them into the ownership. Partnership, limited liability company, corporation, whatever it is. I'm not going to get into the mechanics today. You have plenty of professionals that can help you do that. And the other thing you got to do when you're enjoying your business is get away. Let them run the show. Another situation. Went to a farm, and I always like to tour the facilities first. The two brothers showed me around the barn and everything. And one thing stood right out, is they had music on in the barn. Country music. I like country music. I said to them, I said, do the cows milk better? And they didn't know, but Dad loves country music. Went into the parlor, it was even louder. Oh, okay, so we're at the family dining room table talking about a transfer. Dad and Mom joined the farm, love it. One problem, Dad hasn't missed a milking in 40 years. I said, Dad, have you taken a vacation? No. Mother said, yes, you went to the state fair about 4 or 5 years ago. But I got back in time to milk the cows. Oh boy, control, farming. Dad was old enough that he had to turn key responsibilities over to the next generation. Now Roger says, what am I going to do? I haven't run across this situation. I could talk about all the regular thing. So I said to Dad, I said, what would you love to do? He said, I want to go to the Grand Ole Opry. Wow, good. I turned to his two sons and I said, guess what you're going to get Mom and Dad for Christmas? A plane ticket, opera ticket, and make sure they leave for a week. Guess what happened? He came back and never milked a cow. Ever again. Yeah, enjoy your business. Get away. The brothers learned how to take care of the cows. Nothing dramatic happened. Dad realized it, and they lived every happy after. So, let them run the show. Might be scary, especially if you're not a good mentor, but they got to be doing it. At the leaving empire stage, selling gift parts of the empire, you can't take it all with you. Next generation needs a net worth to build their empire. Move down the road. I tell every leaving generation to move. I was born in this house, I'm going to die in this house. I've run across that problem. I've raised 12 kids in this house, and I'm not moving. You got to move. Well, I've got a family on their 7-year succession plan. They've reached their 7th year. This is the time to set the timetable. Dad doesn't want to do it. He's 62. He said he'd retire at Social Security age at 65. He is too healthy, too good, too rambunctious. But guess what? He and Mom convinced themselves to build a retirement home down the road, around the bend, so they can't see the farm. And the kids are moving into the main house. All part of the succession plan. I'm so happy for them that they could do that. But then I went to the North Country. You know how in the North Country you have the barn, and you have the woodshed, and you have the house. They're all together, so in the winter you can go right out to the barn. So I was there to do the transfer. Dad had decided to retire. He remodeled the house. He put in a big TV and a nice recliner chair, and he says, I'm gonna just relax. Son's gonna run the business. But he did something terrible. He put in a picture window in the living room. Big picture window. Guess what it looks out on? The milk house. He says, I told my son not to miss getting up at 5 in the morning and milking the cows. And I'm watching. Okay. All right. We'll move on. Who are the next farmers? Common question. No one to take over. That is a poor excuse for someone who doesn't want to leave his employer. There's always somebody that will want a good farm. Maybe they'll farm differently. Maybe they only want parts of it. Maybe you have to rent some because they can't afford to buy it all. But you can find someone. I always tell them, go look. Start with your non-farm kids. Huh? Father and mother, big farm. I was asked to bring in 2 key employees. Sat at the kitchen table again. I get a lot done at the kitchen table. None of these offices. Anyways, sat there and I said to Mom, I said, how many children do you have? 5. I said, Dad, how many of them are in the business? None. Why not? Well, one of my sons tried it, but he'd rather go trucking. Okay, what about the other 4? They're all doing whatever they're doing. They're great kids. Well, have you ever asked any of them to come back and help you on the farm? We supposed to ask them? Yes, you're supposed to ask them. I think you ought to do that before you turn the business over to the non-farm kids. Well, you know what I'm talking about. No, neither of them wanted to talk to the kids about that. Because I guess it was never brought up. All during their kids' careers back on the farm. So guess what? For a big price, I called them. I didn't want to do this, but I called them. Okay, strange thing happened. One daughter says, I love the farm, I want to come back, but I can't. Okay. The next 3 says, we want to come back, we're just waiting for the parents to ask us. Well, obviously they're not going to ask it because here I am. Are you sure you want to come back? Yes, we loved it. One of the daughters says, but I don't want to be involved in all that big equipment stuff. I want to run a roadside stand and grow vegetables. Well, that makes sense. We'll see if they want to do it. One of the boys says, if I come back, Dad's got to change. So I reported back. Today, Mom and Dad are retired. One of the sons is running the farm unbelievably well, and his sister's got a roadside stand. There's always a way. There's always a way. Okay, so maybe you can find them. Here's a young dairy couple in New Jersey. A dairy couple in New Jersey. We should have gotten to them. Oh. They met at Delaware Valley College. They love dairy cows. They're both got a dream to own a dairy farm. What better than anything? They found a farmer who's doing all right farming in New Jersey, who just happens to have 2 barns, who just happens to think that he ought to involve these young couple, next generation, who says, I'll sell you some cows, you buy some cows, I'll grow the crops for you, keep your part-time job, and maybe you'll make it. All right? Now, they are part of Farm Credit's Farm Start program. Some of you may have heard this. We've set up a PESO program 6 years ago. Went through a lot of hoops to get it approved. It's an exciting program. I've been involved since the concept, and I'm on the investment committee. In my retirement, I do the training of our Farm Credit advisors. We give them startup money, operating funds. They got to pay it back. It's a 5-year program. We've put 125 farms through it so far. After 5 years, 66% of them are still farming. We think that's very good. And the norm, of course, is around 50%. They are the farm family, young couples who have been dreaming and they're starting their dream. They're in their 30s, they've gained experience with farms of their dream, they built a good credit score, and we've got something right here in Columbia and Dutchess County. Grooming a successor takes years. First thing you've got to do is groom that succession plan. Pick a successor and establish a timeline. This is a daughter that decided to put the timeline together. It's not Jenny, it's another daughter. She's going to operate a big farm. Her folks have decided that she's ready to start her apprenticeship. She wrote her own apprenticeship program. 2 years learning every job on the farm. A miracle happened. 24 employees. They all couldn't believe that she wanted to learn from them, work side by side with them, learn how to drive the trucks and you name it. They have so much respect for her that they can't wait for her to take over. All right? Okay, quick summary, key points. First, make your farm business profitable for the future. You may have to farm like the new agriculture. The more owners in the business, the more conservative debt level. Nobody wants to hear this. The more people we got, the better we can grow, the more debt we can take on, except multiple owners don't always stick around. I had an old farmer tell me, he said, I bought my farm back twice. My brother left and my son left. Should I bring in my key employee? Not a very good track record. Yeah. You need a mechanism for transfer. Mention that. Next generation must share responsibility, position, supervise employees. All right? You have to have a good communication system. Have one family corporation, 9 stockholders, 4 active. Believe it or not, they all got walkie-talkies. When I got there for a meeting, they called out all the stockholders together except one. We couldn't find him. He was behind the barn. He turned his walkie-talkie off. So, you know, it takes work to have a good communication system. And you need financial management. It is critical. And the numbers must be shared by both generations. I got called by a loan officer who told me, he said, get out here quick before something bad happens. Well, when I arrived, I found out that son had bought a bale chopper in the barn to make it easier to feed the cows. Dad thought it was a big waste of money, $1,500. Son and his wife took it out of their savings. They were so upset because Dad kept saying the farm is not profitable, and they were trying to figure out ways to make it profitable. Argued about it all the time. One day, Dad got so mad he took son's coat and put it through the bale chopper. Well, he ended up having a heart attack and things changed. Well, I went in there and I looked at the financial books. Dad and Mom were financially solid. No debt, money in the checking account, doing fine. He just never wanted to tell his son that they were doing good. He's one of these pessimistic farmers. Everything is terrible. And he's doing very well. As soon as we showed the Cornell Green account book to the son and daughter-in-law, they took over the farm. Yeah, they're doing well. Okay, when building your farm empire, must be aware of what you do during the stages. A professional improvement plan for owners, that's your succession plan. You gotta make major responsibility change every 2 years. Time flies fast when you're going through the seasons. Finally, Roger says in a family business, the captain should not go down with the ship, just sail away. Well, most of you don't have boats or ships or cruises or whatever. But I have one farmer who has a motor home. And he took this literally. He goes all over the country, he and his wife. They see sights, but they do something very, very special. They work for Habitat for Humanity. They build homes. And they come back at planting and harvesting season. That's what I mean by just sail away. And I'm just going to sail away because that's what I've been doing the last few years. And thank you for your attention. I don't know, Steve, if my questions or not, but have a good career in agriculture.
I As I went walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land